Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me again today for the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. I'm Jackie Woodside, the host and the founder of the Conscious Living Podcast. And I just want to say thank you today again for being one of those people that really is committed to diving in deeply, living with intention, not just kind of moving your way through life, but actually wanting to experience and savor and deepen your experience of this thing called life, to live your life consciously. You're my people, you're my tribe. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm so excited to bring to the Conscious Living Podcast someone who I've just discovered and who is kind of a neighbor of mine here in Massachusetts, a finance expert and founder of a really interesting company, but also someone who shares this passion about living life consciously and has a real expertise in something that's a passion of mine, as you all know, being conscious about money. So, Marcel, I'm going to just turn this over to you. I don't want to butcher your last name, so you can go ahead and add your last name to this. But I want to invite you or welcome you to the Conscious Living Podcast, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and also thank you to your audience. I love hearing that this is all about being intentional, because that is a strong belief of mine, the importance of being intentional in our actions. My name is Marcel Quiroga. I'm the founder and CEO of TQM Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisory firm, where basically we help people make good financial decisions by creating financial plans that help them be more mindful and more thoughtful and purposeful with their money.
Wow. Marcel, I love that. I love that that's kind of the focus of your business. I have to tell you, I teach a program called the Life Design Course, where it's all about living your life from the inside out. And one of the things people do is they evaluate the structural integrity of their life. How well put together is their life? And one of the markers, the checks that people get to have, is that they're working with someone to advise them on how to be more intentional and wise with their money and assets. So I am a big fan and a big supporter of working with a financial professional, and especially someone like you that's so aligned with the value of using our money intentionally. So let's dive into that topic. Marcel, you have so many interesting points that you say that I want to ask you about, and I'm sure we'll go down other rabbit holes as well. But let's start with this notion that wealth that wealth isn't necessarily about how many zeros you have, how many commas there are in the numbers that are in your checking account. You say that it's not money that builds wealth. So let's dive into that.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. What I think is important for each of us to focus on when we're thinking about money is our values. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes there is a disconnect between the decisions we're making with our money, or the way we may be pursuing money, or even the amount of time we may be spending on thinking about money. And oftentimes that thinking translates into stress.
Yeah,
but if we pause and take a step back, and I'm a big fan of writing things down, and not just because it helps me remember things, but, Jackie, I'm sure you know, and many of your listeners know that there is even scientific proof of the value of journaling, for example.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, there's so much evidence about how it reduces stress, increases serotonin, the feel-good hormones in your brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that.
And so I think if you ask somebody, what their values are, they could probably list a few things off of the top of their head. Sometimes I guess, some of the more common values that we hear about are family, hard work, education, integrity. But there are definitely more values than that. You know, there are things like independence, sorry, fulfillment,
Yeah.
um,
Peace of mind,
impact, peace
personal
of
growth,
mind. Yes.
health,
So the list could
well-being.
go on and on.
Yeah. I have to say, in my life design course, I give students do a piece where they learn to discern their core values. And one of the exercises is a list of about 100 different possible values that
Wow.
they list how important it is to them, and then list to what degree they're actually living that value in their life. So,
I love that,
yeah,
Jackie. And we're
yeah.
doing something very similar
I love that.
as the first step in our process for financial planning, because we start also with asking clients to list their core values.
Oh,
We don't give them 100 options, we give them fewer options, but we also leave blank spaces for them to add their
yeah,
own,
same here. Yeah.
right? And so the point of this is that when we pause and we think, and so go through a introspective process,
Hmm.
um, we might, you know, realize that something that we thought was very high top on the list is maybe fifth or sixth, and what we thought, you know, we probably even haven't given a lot of thought to the
Right.
order of our values.
Right.
We just kind of know. And so when you write them down and read them back to yourself, and then when you use that as your starting point to
Mhm.
define what you're trying to accomplish in life, then you can see if there's a connection or not. Very much like you're talking about, Jackie,
Absolutely.
in your different classes and in your approach to helping people with conscious living.
Mm.
So yeah,
So
so
where do you go
obviously,
with there? People, you help people discern their values, and then how do you correlate that to people's financial plan or their financial future?
yeah. So for example, I think something many parents could relate to is wanting to educate their children, you know, provide them with opportunities for higher education
Sure.
or whatever that may be.
Yep.
And so uh, they may say, you know, in their values, education is an important value, but they may also say independence is an important value, family is an important value. So then when we are going through the planning process, it's not unusual for the family to say, I want to pay for my child's college education. And then the question becomes, okay, let's put that on your values scale.
Okay.
And let's see, and this is different for everyone, but this is just an example to help people think about this process. So if you put that on a scale and the person or that family has not saved much for their future, then the question becomes, in the scope of your values, maybe education is so important, but if you are not first taking care of yourself, and I actually say this to some people, do you want to have an educated child that in a few years you're going to go ring their doorbell and say, I need to live with you. I
Right.
need you to support me.
Yeah.
So yes, you were very generous with them, but if family is a top value and independence is a top value, then there needs to be a choice. A
Yeah.
choice needs to be made.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sooner you start planning for
Yeah.
anything,
Yes.
the better, right? Not
But
just for
especially
your
around
own
money.
future.
I mean, the
Yeah.
earlier you begin putting money away for your financial future, the more it compounds and the better off you and your next generation will be.
100%. I also find it very interesting in my experience working with financially successful people that there is this sense of confidence because of the amount of money they've accumulated, that they will be able to address, let's call it the education, or maybe helping a child buy their first home, with the down payment or things like that. But then it's also about putting a microscope, if you will, to what else they're doing with their money. Because a lot of times we think, oh, if I had millions of dollars, I would have no worries in the world. But financial independence is not about how much money you have. It's more about what you do with that money. So if you're overspending, and you may be overspending because, you like nice things, but it also could be because you're just very, very generous. You're giving too much money away, or you're paying too much in taxes when you could be paying less. There could be a series of things.
Or because you're unconscious with money. I mean, let's face it.
Because you're unconscious, you're not paying attention to it, right?
It's so easy to go unconscious with spending money in our world because because it's endless, right?
Yes.
Everybody on their smartphone, the Amazon app or the Temu app or whatever. I mean, it's incredible how easy it is to spend money in our world today. And it really requires a higher level of dedication and commitment to be conscious about not only how we're spending our money and how much we're spending, but are we spending money aligned with our values as well?
And that's where all of this connects, because if we do start with our values and then we say, well, these are the things that I would like to plan for. I would like to plan for this kind of lifestyle, whether it is the current lifestyle or, some adjustments. I'd also like to plan to, let's say, help my children or another loved one. So, the sandwich generation.
Right.
Sometimes we're also helping our aging parents. I'd like to plan for supporting certain causes. I want to make a difference in this world. But then we can start moving those different objectives around and seeing, okay, which ones are we going to prioritize? What objectives can you accomplish in the short term? And then which ones can we leave for mid or long term?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the message is the purpose of money is to enrich other types of wealth in our lives. So financial wealth, when used consciously, mindfully, purposefully, serves to enrich our human, social, and spiritual wealth.
Oh, I love that.
And so when people understand this, money takes on a whole new meaning.
Well, say more, Marcel. I want to understand what you mean by that. So as you increase your financial wealth, it enhances your human, your social, and your spiritual wealth. So what do you mean by that? I want to understand it.
So whether you increase it or you stay where you are financially speaking, but the true purpose of money is for us to have a good quality of life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we may define quality of life differently, but in essence, there are 3 areas of life that are valuable to all of us, whether we're aware of it or not. The human aspect. So that's the human wealth, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our emotional well-being. All that is part of our human nature, right? So if we're not healthy physically, emotionally, mentally, then it's hard to have a good quality of life.
Absolutely.
And so how does money help you in those areas? Well, again, if you're putting money in the place where it belongs, which is the end game is not the money. The end game is what you want to accomplish with the money. Right.
Well, what do you want the money to do for you?
Right.
Having money be your servant, not your master.
I love that. I say that a lot, and I love hearing it from you, Jackie. So ultimately, then you might think, okay, first of all, for example, having a financial plan, or if you have, a 401k that's invested in the market, or if you have investments outside of your 401k, are your investments reflecting your financial plan? All of that if that is true, if you have a clear, updated financial plan, and if your investments are built for your financial plan to succeed, then you'll have more peace of mind.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
more peace of mind feeds into better health, mentally, emotionally, and ultimately those two aspects contribute to our physical health.
Mm-hmm.
But also you could say, well, because I have a priority in these areas, maybe I'm going to allocate more money towards certain kind of food or
Mm-hmm.
certain kind of outside activities or
Holistic care.
exercise.
Holistic care.
Exactly. And
Sure.
so if I'm going to do that, maybe that means I'll spend less on, the perishable material things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you are having money serve your purpose in the
Yeah.
health area.
I want to pick up on this, Marcel. I find this just so fascinating. You're talking about health, and then you also said social, that money should serve your social well-being. And as we think about health and then putting social next to that, the Harvard study on longevity says if you boil down all of the factors in life that lead to people living a healthy, long life, it's relationships.
Yes.
So, which just, is astounding to me. So you can, eat like crap and drink like a sailor, but but as long as you got good, loving relationships, you're probably still going to lead a long life, which,
Yes.
maybe not quite as healthy as someone who doesn't drink like a sailor.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do value health and nutrition and really good health practices. But I like what you said too about the social aspect. And let's face it, yes, you can get together with a friend and go for a hike, and that doesn't cost any money. But we live in a very mobile society. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of my family members, in fact, I have one nephew in Massachusetts, but I don't have any, siblings in Massachusetts. My mom is in New York. She's still alive. And my nieces and nephews are all over the country. My friends are all over the country, all over the world, really. So in order to kind of maintain that tight social network of loving, supportive people in your life, it often requires money.
Yeah. And I like to take it a step further, Jackie,
Okay.
because if I'm going to go hike with my friend, I probably need some hiking shoes. At
You
the
need some
minimum, I
hiking
need some
shoes. Yeah.
sneakers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And if it's going to be a long hike, you might even need a tent or a backpack.
Or, even my bottle of water. And
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
lot of money compared to other things I could
Sure.
do,
Sure.
but time also is cost,
Time is
right?
also, yeah, a commodity for
So it's a
sure.
commodity. And if I'm going to dedicate an hour with a friend, that's an hour less of dedicating it to other things,
Yeah,
which is perfectly fine, obviously,
of course.
because we want to nourish our social connections. But I think as we become more aware
Yeah.
of the role money plays for us to be able to do the things that are important to us, then we give it the importance it deserves, not because it's the end game, not because it'll be your master,
Yeah.
but because you are going to direct it towards the things that you're trying to accomplish,
Exactly.
towards the things that are important to you.
Exactly.
And I also mentioned the spiritual aspect.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You were going exactly where I was just thinking. So let's talk about how money enhances your spiritual life.
So, I think it's almost a taboo, if you will, to think about money and spirituality. The spiritual person obviously let go. If you think of Buddha or Jesus, everything is about not being attached to
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
right? And no matter what your spiritual beliefs are or your, personal beliefs are, um, understanding that you are the master and that the only purpose of money is for you to really have quality in your life
Yeah.
because it's necessary to, again, even if you're going to sit down and meditate, you probably need a roof over your head. You might want some incense. Or if you're part of a spiritual community, you're going to drive there. You may want to support it financially
support
in
it.
some ways. And ultimately, from my perspective, when we focus on the spiritual aspect of our lives, we are focused on becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that can require things like learning, maybe taking, a conscious living class, or reading certain books.
Yeah, or having a coach.
Or having a personal coach or an executive coach, whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And so another thing that I think is connected to the spiritual aspect, it's also connected to the social and human aspect, is this this word that I like to think of a little bit differently than most people, but it's legacy. And so, for me, legacy is about how we live. Yeah. It's not so much about what we leave behind, although, yes, if I leave behind things for my children, loved ones, or for great causes, nobody's going to complain, and that's wonderful. But everybody is going to have a legacy, no matter whether they planned it or not. So when you live your legacy, what you're doing is you're living on purpose. You're aware of everything, how you talk to the Uber driver. Do you smile to the cash register, to the person at the cash register when you're checking out at the supermarket? And obviously you can build so much of that on that. And that is part of the financial discovery process, because as we've all heard, first take care of yourself and then you can take care of others. Nice. So if we have taken the time to take care of ourselves financially, if we have that peace of mind, if we know where we stand, then we also have the strength and the wisdom to direct certain resources of time, talent, or treasure towards things beyond our day-to-day obligations.
I love that.
And so that's a little bit where all of this gets connected.
I love that. You use that phrase, time, talent, and treasure. I go to a Unity church, and in our Unity church, we talk about tithing your time, talent, and treasure.
Exactly. Beautiful.
And for people who aren't aware, we're familiar with that phrase, tithing means giving 10%. So giving 10% of your time, giving 10% of your talent, giving 10% of your treasure to the source of your spiritual good, the source of your spiritual food, where you're nourished spiritually.
It's so important to have that nourishment, but it's also important to have, if I'm going to do the tithing, if I'm going to give 10% of my time, talent, or treasure, then I have to know, one, that I can give that 10%.
Yeah.
And also, what am I doing with the other 90%?
Yes.
Right? Where is that going?
Yeah.
Because I can't give what I don't have, whether it's time, talent, or treasure.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of people have an idea that only people of great financial wealth can give.
Yeah.
Not necessarily true.
Yeah. No, of course.
Right? Not necessarily true. There's that story in the Bible of the old lady who gives her coin, and that's the only coin she has.
Only thing she had, yeah.
And she gives it away.
Yeah.
And I like to think that she's coming, it's evident she's coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
But hopefully also from a place of strength. Maybe faith. She has 100%
faith rather than fear. I mean,
yes. Oh, I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, that to me is kind of the definition of financial freedom, that you're living in faith rather than fear about money. Then you can be free. You can be a billionaire, but not be free about money.
Oh, and I have clients of all types and sizes, and I have spent time with clients who are very afraid of losing millions and millions of dollars. And no judgment on my end. They
Sure.
worked very hard to get that money.
Yeah.
And it represents security, it represents success, but there could be other reasons why they're afraid.
Yeah.
And so maybe diving into, obviously I'm not a therapist, but diving into where that fear is coming from can be helpful. And what I find is that the discovery process during the building of a financial plan is where we are able to uncover the source of that fear. Maybe it comes from childhood because, your parents weren't able to, pay for, a decent meal or for the book you needed at school, or maybe they were always fighting about money. Or maybe someone could have been bankrupt at some point and then they were able to turn things around and they just never want to go back. But it's not the fear that's going to keep them in the safe place.
Right.
It is the faith, but faith built on a foundation.
Say more about that.
So, faith is believing in something that we don't see.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as I believe in God, right? I've never seen God. And, but there is a foundation for my belief.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It comes from everything from my upbringing, but it also comes from my relationship with God. It comes from my church and my community. It comes from appreciating nature. And, I believe he created this, perfect world that unfortunately we don't always take care of the way, we have been entrusted to. So when it comes to money, bringing it back to, the financial aspect and how you can have faith in your financial well-being, it's because you're taking action.
Yeah.
Because you're not blindly spending, you're not ignoring the need to save. You're not just investing on the last hot stock or the latest last stock because you think that's going to make you, rich, or you're not just buying a lottery ticket.
Right.
You're actually have a foundation.
Yeah.
And that foundation is telling you, okay, this is where you are today. These are the actions that you need to take in order to strengthen your position today. And then if you know where you want to get to, then you can also define what path to follow to get there. So
important. I love that you've mentioned so many times having a financial plan. And I want to ask you, Marcel, I was so frustrated for, probably 10 or 15 years with 3 or 4 different financial planners that I worked with, kept telling them, like, I want to know that I'm going to have what I want. And, my later years, I'm going to, and all of them were like, no, you'll be fine. No, you'll be fine. Until I finally am now with the financial planner we have. And she's like, well, yeah, we need to do a financial plan.
Yes.
So why did I have all of these other planners who just kind of poo-pooed that wish and desire? So I guess not all financial planners offer that valuable service of planning to how to get from A to B so that when you're in those later years, you've done the work. You can have faith in yourself and in God that you've took the actions aligned with your values and now you have that outcome. What's up with that in your industry?
I love that question. And I've asked myself the same thing so I started in finance over 25 years ago in the financial services world. But as a financial advisor, I did start at a brokerage firm.
Okay.
And there was no talk about financial planning.
Right. They were brokerage firms, right?
Yeah. And so even the independent firms, in other words, like my firm is an independent firm. I'm not affiliated with a brokerage firm. I don't get paid for selling investment products. I sit on the same side of the table of the client. If the client does well, I do well, but the client's best interest supersedes mine.
Right.
I'm a fiduciary, which
Yeah.
means I have a legal obligation to put the client's best interest above my own.
Okay.
And the model that is typical when it's more of a financial advisor than a financial planner,
Mm-hmm.
even though the titles could be interchangeable,
Okay.
but is that we're just going to focus on the investments. Tell me how much money you have to invest, and I'm going to tell you how to invest based on some opinions, right? Based on obviously research, market history, but also some projections. I think this is where interest rates are going to go and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few things that come up under that model. And one is that the standard of care for the client is called the suitability standard.
Okay.
As long as it's suitable for the client, it's okay to recommend it.
Okay.
But the compensation model is also different. So if I put you, in these suitable models, if I put you in a fund, I may get a kickback.
Okay.
Right? That's what the financial advisory world has typically done.
Yeah.
There are more financial planners now that are fee only or fee based.
Fee based. Yeah.
And fee based and fee only are not the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So fee only means you're only getting paid by the client. Fee based means in some cases you may also be earning, a commission for a trade or for an investment product, etc. So it was very transactional, and it still is very transactional for, that's how they're making money. They're charging the client, but they're also earning a commission on transactions.
Yeah.
And now this is more, my personal opinion, but I know that there are a lot of financial planners that will agree with me. The reason why a lot of financial advisors don't do financial planning is because, one, it's a lot of work, and two, it's not lucrative. Right? That's not where you're going to make your money to support a company, right? If you have a business. But in my opinion, it's necessary and it's the right thing to do. Right? So how can I know what is in your best interest if I don't do a comprehensive financial plan that serves as your decision-making tool?
Yeah.
That is a living document, so that when you tell me, Marcel, we want to go to Paris for a month, we want to live there, we work remotely, and but I want to see what the impact is on my financial plan.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to run the numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And show you the results.
That's exactly what our planner is doing for us as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what she or he should be doing.
Yeah. No, she's
ultimately, I think what people want to know is what their financial health looks like.
Yeah.
So when we go to the doctors for a physical, they ask for some lab work. And then there are some biomarkers that indicate, is your blood pressure too high, or is your cholesterol too high? Is the sugar in your blood, is it within the right range, et cetera, et cetera. What most people don't know is that there are also financial markers.
Yeah.
And what those financial markers are indicators of is how well funded your future is.
Okay.
Because our biggest liability is money we owe ourselves for our future spending.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Our biggest liability is what we owe ourselves for our future spending and well-being, or for our future well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what we're spending for.
Exactly.
I think that's the spirit of this conversation, and our approach, both yours and mine, is we are spending so we can have well-being in different areas of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And so that spending is called consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can show you what the present value of your future consumption is, then, for people who are in business, and not everybody is, but that becomes a note payable. It's
Okay.
money that you can expect to pay yourself, so you
Yep.
can pay off your mortgage, and you can pay your utilities, and your the education of your children, and your taxes.
Yeah.
So what are you going to use to fund that? And so you have your financial capital, which is obviously money you've saved and invested, oftentimes in a 401k or an IRA, but also outside of that. Again, depending where you are in life and how much you've been able to save. But then you have two other types of funding sources that people often don't think about. And that is your human capital and your social capital. And that should be on your balance sheet.
Nice.
And that also should be updated regularly on your financial plan.
Nice.
Your human capital is the present value of your future earnings. So let's say I make $100,000 a year, very, hypothetical number, just for purposes of example. And I plan to work 15 more years.
Mm-hmm.
So my job as the planner is to project that out. And if I'm assuming that every year I'll make 3, 4, 5% more, I have to know my client, what industry they're in, what does that look like? But I'm going to index it to that inflation, that increase for 15 years. Nice. But then I'm going to discount it to present value, meaning the equivalent of those 15 years of earnings. What is the value of that in today's dollars? Mm-hmm. So I can put it on your balance sheet next to the value of your financial capital, because your financial capital is expressed in the value it has today, not the value we think it will have in the future. And so the same holds true with our social capital, which is the present value of the future income you will get from Social Security from the day you file. I like to plan out to age 95.
Yeah.
And the present value of the income from any pension or any other social contract that you have. Mm-hmm. So all of these things become the sources of funding your lifetime consumption.
I love it.
Yeah.
So clear.
Yeah, it is. And it's the cornerstone of any financial plan.
Yeah.
Because now I'm going to know what your risk capacity is. So most people are familiar, if they're investing, with their risk profile or their risk tolerance. And I want to take this back to the conscious living and to the mindfulness, because I don't want us to forget that the reason we're talking about this, and the reason you go through this exercise, as interesting or painful as it might sound to you, depending what your relationship is with money.
Right.
But the reason why you're doing this is so that you can have a more conscious life, which leads to a more satisfied life, which leads to more happiness and joy. So the reason why, that's why we're talking about this, right? So why do I want to know my risk capacity? For all those reasons
all those reasons, right? Exactly. Right? So you're really you're planning your happiness future as well as
exactly
your financial future. Yeah.
But most people, if they have gone through any investments, they will, answer a questionnaire that says, if the market goes down 15%, I would sell and not invest any more money, or I would just wait till it bounces back, or I would add more money because I know I'm buying it low, right, and it's going to add value. Yeah. So there are a series of questions like that.
Yeah.
And that produces your risk profile or your tolerance or comfort level with risk.
Yep.
Are you conservative? Are you moderate? Are you aggressive? My question is, if that morning you heard the news and Russia attacked Ukraine, let's say you were also waiting for a sponsorship or a big deal to close in your business and it fell through, you're not feeling very optimistic that day.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you're going to answer those questions is very different to
Right.
a bright and sunny day where, the world isn't perfect, but you're not, nothing terrible has
Right.
risen or, come up in the news. Maybe you just closed the sponsorship of your life for your podcast, or you got the book deal, or you just closed this big client. Now you're more confident. And so the way you're going to respond to that questionnaire is also different.
Yeah.
So we need something that's quantitative aside from qualitative.
Mm-hmm.
And that balance sheet that I was talking about with financial, human, and social capital and consumption will reveal the number of your risk capacity.
Wow. Marcel, you've got such a profound approach to managing money, to mastering money. Have you written a book yet about your approach?
I've started it. I have not
Started it.
finished it.
All
So
right.
I
just
am working on
I
it.
want to
Yes, thank
encourage you
you.
to do that. You really have a wonderful message around money. And I know some of my listeners might want to get in touch with you and explore having you work with them on their financial plans. So how can people reach you? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Thank you, Jackie. Absolutely. They can go to my website, which is tqmwealthpartners.com.
Okay.
And TQM stands for Total Quality Management, which is a management strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But it also stands for Te quiero mucho, which means I love you very much in Spanish.
Oh, I love that. I love
So it's that combination of my philosophy of doing things well, but doing them with love.
Beautiful.
And so that's tqmwealthpartners.com. They can also find me on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Good.
But LinkedIn, you just look for my name, Marcel Quiroga.
We will put all of your links in the show notes because I know
Thank
people want to
you.
reach out to you. Marcel, thank you so much for being our guest today. It's just really lovely to be here with you. And
Thank you, Jackie.
Brought tremendous value about this topic of mastering money for the Conscious Living Summit or from Conscious Living podcast today. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.